るもんか。ユージオ、お前は長い間自分を責め続けていた。アリスを救えなかったことを悔やみ続けてきた。その開墾の半分は本来俺が背負うべきものだったんだ。だから一緒に戦おう。俺たち二人の力でアリスを取り戻すんだ。
許さん。ここは私の世界。招かれざる侵入者にそのような振る舞いは断じて許さん。膝をつけ、首を差し出せ。標準せよ。
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to a new video. This is going to be a little different. I'm actually going to just narrate and commentate what happened over this game play of SAO, because the game just actually runs very slow, and you know, I'm having fun with it, but it's just a little slow, and I don't want you guys to sit on YouTube and just watch for an hour of just boring things happening. So I'm going to narrate these, and if you do want to sit and watch boring gameplay, then go ahead and follow my Twitch, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm most likely going to be streaming these games from time to time. Come say hi, but if you want to see it, for the rest of this video, this is just how it's going to be. Let me know if you like this type of style with these longer Let's Plays. Of course, with more serious games, I'll probably not do this, but let's see how this works out. But guys, thank you so much for watching and clicking on this video if you did, and let's go. So our journey just started, and yes, they basically put us up against the god of the whole world. But obviously, I love this part of the anime, but while I was fighting her, I could really only think of one thing.
Eugeo.
After spending around 5 to 10 minutes pressing the same button to try and kill the final boss of the game in the beginning of the game, we finally ended it with a cool slow-mo slash.
よもや剣が2本ともに金属ではないとはね。こうなれば仕方ないわ。予定より随分と早いけれど、一足先に行かせてもらうわね。
いや、どこにも行かせない。ここで決着をつける。
After touching tips with the final boss, the opening plays, and it's actually kind of cool. So alright, it wasn't that cool, but it's a good song. Now after that really cool opening, they proceed to let us think about it and what we felt during it by making us sit through pretty much a 40-second load screen. After literally the longest load screen ever, we are introduced to the Northern Grasslands. After looking at a bunch of trees, we finally see Kirito, and he's asleep, and he wakes up with pretty much amnesia, and the only way he knows he's actually in a virtual world is by looking at his clothes and basically calling them ugly.
なんだこの服。俺こんなの持ってたか。
After fingering the air, he realizes he can't log out, and he finally walks away to try and find more information about where he is.
コマンド。ログアウト。ここにいても仕方ない。 辺りを調べてみるか。
And this dude walks incredibly slow. After watching someone who's supposed to have the fastest reflexes in the SAO world walk away super slow, we are introduced to a new loading screen where we have to sit for around 2 minutes. You guys may be thinking I'm over-exaggerating this loading screen. I am not. I sat there for 2 minutes, and right now it is actually sped up by 400%. I don't know if that number is accurate. That's just pretty much what it says in my editing software. You're probably wondering why I didn't cut to the next scene. Well, we're experiencing this game together, alright? You're suffering with me. After waiting 2 minutes, we finally see a river and hear a weird sound. Kirito wonders what that sound is.
この音は。
He then proceeds to have flashbacks of little kids playing together. The memories are pretty much familiar to us, but we don't know why. We've never actually experienced them. And with that, we actually finally get to walk around, and we are following the strange noise up this hill. After walking up the hill, again, slowly, we get to see a giant tree who I'm convinced is actually Treebeard from Lord of the Rings. After complimenting Treebeard on his size,
なんだこの巨木は。誰？
we are finally introduced to blonde Kirito. Like, come on, it's literally Kirito with blonde hair and blue eyes. I don't know if this was purposely done for the anime, but they've officially run out of ideas for characters. As we're talking to blonde Kirito, he starts to ask all these personal freaking questions.
君は誰？どこから来たの？
Like, buddy, back the fuck off. After sharing dark secrets with each other, we decide to hold hands and stare into each other's eyes. For some reason, they don't actually address this in the cutscene, but blonde Kirito's calling, or basically purpose in life, is to cut down Treebeard until he dies, / if he cuts it down before then. Eventually, blonde Kirito suggests that we go to his village just north of here to just get some rest. After we agree and decide to go to his village, we get another beautiful cutscene of Treebeard, and it just zooms up all the way to the top and just stares at it. It's so goddamn beautiful, the game decides we just have to stare at it until we choose we are done. I thought there would be a point where the screen turns to black, but it turns out that we actually have to skip the cutscene to end the cutscene. After skipping the cutscene, I was actually very surprised that the loading screen went really fast into our next transition, introducing Chapter 1. Or so I thought. Turns out apparently this was another loading screen, I just didn't know it. I was waiting for blonde Kirito to say something to us, but he just stared at us for days. I even tried to press a button to skip something, and it was actually qualified as a cutscene, and I could not skip it. After around 25 minutes in the game, we finally get our first real main quest. I saw this cool purple glowing thing and I decided to interact with it, but it didn't give me anything. So I decided to pick a bunch of flowers. Games have really come far in 2020. After making it to a certain point, we finally reach the village and we get a nice little cutscene showing us the village. Okay, I'm done making you suffer. Again, for some reason this is all very slow and I decided to speed it up for you. I'm not gonna lie, it felt kind of cool walking into the village. I don't know, it gave me kind of a nostalgic feeling playing Skyrim walking into Whiterun for the first time. Near the front gate of the village, I spotted another glowing purple stick and I wanted to interact with it. Knowing we were going to be disappointed, the game decided to spare us of that disappointment and throw us into a cutscene. During this cutscene, we learned that there is a whole other area to this world and it is run by forces of darkness. Our next step is to head to the village church, and blonde Kirito is trying to convert us into his religion. At the church, we meet a little girl named Selka. She's kind of important, but not really. During this interaction, we basically learn that there's a magic in this world called sacred arts. Eventually, we convince everyone that we're a good guy and they let us stay the night. The next morning, blonde Kirito basically decides to show us around the town. We learn that we can actually interact with other NPCs in this game. I tried talking to this NPC swinging his sword around, but turns out he just wanted to be left alone. He clearly seemed busy, so I decided to try and talk to someone else. I almost wanted to kill this NPC, clearly seeing that he was doing nothing, but then I realized he might be guarding the village and is really focused on his job. As we were exploring the village, I was stopped in my tracks when I noticed this giant barbecue. Unfortunately, I didn't really have any food to cook. I tried talking to one more NPC, hoping that someone in this village would be friendly with me and share their name. But I have been officially convinced that everyone in this village is a dick. After exploring the village for a while, we heard someone cry for help. Being the heroes we are, we rushed over to the scene of the crime and we found out that a boy had been kicked in the shin. Turns out my detective skills are not great and he was actually attacked by a wild animal, who probably kicked him in the shin. Who I assume is the village leader. He asks us to take down the beast for him. We are up for it right away, but apparently Blanc Kirito takes around 10 seconds to decide. After talking a little more, we finally set out to hunt down the beast. Turns out it was only like 70 feet away from where we were, so we found it pretty quick. Turns out we were trying to find a very ugly chocobo. I used my detective skills and realized that the chocobo is very aggressive and is planning to attack. We then pull our swords, where I can only assume is from Narnia, to fight the beast. Realizing I fought the final boss in the first 2 minutes of the game and beat her, I realized I could probably take this on without worry. The combat was actually a lot faster and more fluent than in the tutorial. I had a lot more fun killing the chocobo than I did the final boss. Some time passes and Blanc Kirito decides to tell us about some divine object. Realizing we needed help in this world, we realized we needed to cut down Treebeard so that Blanc Kirito could come with us on our journey. While we're trying to figure out how to cut down Treebeard as fast as we can, Blanc Kirito comes with the divine object that he told us about. He explains how it's really heavy, but honestly I think he's just a wimp. Turns out we're a wimp too. After this, we come up with the genius idea to cut down Treebeard with the sword we can barely handle. It didn't work. Some time passes and we wanted to learn more about sacred arts. We learned some information from Selka about her older sister, who apparently was super good with sacred arts. Apparently Alice did something bad and was taken away by a knight, and the whole village pretends that she never existed. Selka actually doesn't know why she was taken away, she just knows she was. She knows that Eugeo and her dad know, but they don't tell her. Being incredibly stupid like we are, we give Selka a hint of where Alice was when she did the bad thing that got her taken away. Selka eventually goes missing and we decide to go find her with Blanc Kirito. But before I decided to go save a little girl from her doom, I decided to go fishing. I stayed there for such a long time that I actually raised my fishing level by 1 level. Being the stubborn person I was, I really wanted to raise my level to the max fishing level it could possibly go. In my head I thought it was at least 10 or 100, and I wasn't going to stop until I got there. But it turns out the fish were actually smarter than it seemed. They saw that I was killing so many of their brothers and sisters that they just fled the river altogether. It was not that there was no fish, the fish were just gone. They ran away. Despite the warning message, I tried one more time. No luck. The game really wants me to save Selka. After fishing for around 3 minutes, I decided to take a break and eat some dinner. Earlier in the game told me that it saves periodically, so I decided to trust the game. It lied to me, and we had to load up this screen one more time. Since the game lied, I had to start fishing all over again. And what took 3 minutes last time, felt like 5 minutes this time. After regaining my fishing status, I saw another purple glowing stick and I decided to interact with it. Turns out it's just a save point. As we made our way through the trail, we spotted these water lizards. They didn't put up much of a fight, so I decided to kill them all. Further down the trail, I found another fishing spot. I decided Selka could wait and began fishing. As we continued, I found a honey ant and a shroom. Apparently the shroom was an enemy, so I decided to cut it down. Still trying to get to my destination, I saw a big ass beetle across the river. I figured since I killed so many shrooms, I could definitely take this thing down. I decided that it wasn't worth my time, and it wasn't hurting anybody. We reached our destination, and I was met with another loading screen. We entered the cave, and I saved, because I knew I was probably going to die in here. Moving into the cave, we found some clinging bats, who didn't really put up much of a fight. At one point, we discovered biting bats, who also really didn't put up much of a fight. The game clearly wanted me to go right and climb up the vines. But being stubborn, I obviously wanted to go the other way, and I chose to Skyrim hop up the rocks, and it worked. I was met with a lot of enemies that were a lot higher level than me, so I ran. But eventually the game did make me go back to trigger the checkpoint. Near that area, I learned that the shrooms could actually walk, and that scared the hell out of me. I also met this ghost bat who was level 8, and I was level 7 at the time, so I figured I could do some decent damage to it, but I was completely wrong. This thing would not take damage from any of my attacks. Realizing that I could not do anything to hurt it, I ran and left Eugeo as bait so I could escape. While I was running, I realized it was actually following me and right behind me, so I jumped off the cliff and took fall damage. We entered the crystal cave. Some goblins were apparently roaming around this cave, and they had Selka captive. This was a pretty tough battle. Not because the enemies were hard, but mostly because the locking system in the game was screwing with me and the camera angles were just terrible. During the fight, Eugeo unlocked some certain super cool ability, and it did 1 slash and no damage. After getting the enemy's health down to a certain point, we had won the battle. Eugeo tried to be a hero, Kirito got mad, we got our revenge. Eugeo was dying. Selka was being a little bitch and couldn't help us, saying that she didn't have enough power to heal him. We held hands in hopes that the power of friendship would heal our friend. We blacked out because we were giving our life energy to Eugeo. As we blacked out, the game decided to switch art styles, which I'm in favor of this art style. I really do not like the one they have in-game. We black out one more time. I'm met with another 5-minute loading screen. We wake up and we're back at the tree. Realizing we have upgraded our handling skill on swords, we can now hold the divine object. We use it to cut down Treebeard. Cutscenes happen and we just talk, it's really nothing important, and we set off on our journey. And with that, we have completed the first part of chapter 1.